Wait, Kevin.
Hey guys,
Marcus, as you're saying.
how was the weekend?
Even though we're on quarantine, like the weekend still feels like a weekend, so
That's good.
it's fun.
Mine went too fast. I was pretty much I actually it went by really fast. My nieces actually visited one day, so that was nice to see them.
Didn't you have spring break? Was it last week or the week before?
No, it was actually in March.
Oh, okay.
The quarter system, so it's kind of
I thought there was an Easter spring break or something. No.
yeah, I think it's Easter, but I don't think we did anything.
Well, you're talking about college. I'm talking about the high school.
Yeah.
High school spring break was 2 weeks ago around.
Okay. Well, listen. Let's get started. I'm going to switch to presentation here. Share my screen. Let's see here. Sorry. Where are we? Here we are. All right, so this is our third session. The first two sessions are out on the web. And, for the first, I think for these first few sessions, including this one, we'll get through the agenda and the overview, and then we'll get into more of the content-specific, subject-specific stuff. But these first few sessions is just about level setting so everybody understands what this is. You can make an informed decision on to what extent you want to participate, whether you jump on daily, because we'll be here, at least as of right now, we plan on being here daily at 5 o'clock Pacific time. And it's pretty important to hear these first few sessions because it'll allow you to get enough information to decide if you want to be part of this and to what extent you want to be part of it. And then once we get into the flow, we'll publish in Instagram or out on the website what the topics will be each time that we're going to discuss. And you can join in every session if you want, or you can jump on for a particular topic. So if we say we're going to talk about virtual reality and augmented reality one day, jump on for that session. If we're going to say, one day Marco is going to be interviewing the rest of the team, as well as some entrepreneurs that are from the community there, to talk to them about how they started their business, what motions they went through, what failures they had, what successes they had, jump on for that session, right? So we'll publish in advance topics that we're going to hit each time. And then sometimes we won't really have a topic. We'll just be free flowing and just doing interviews and have some special guests that stop in. Man, I'm excited because I've got some friends that are pretty excited to participate and jump onto this thing when we're ready. So it'll be great. You guys are in for a real treat. With that said, since it's the early sessions, we can still keep doing the introductions. I'm Marcus Shingles. I will pass it over to you, Marco. You can introduce yourself and turn over the rest of the Expo D squad.
Of course. Hello, everyone. Glad to see many of you back again. For those who are new, my name is Marco, and I graduated from Nava College Prep in 2018.
Which is describe that for those that might join that aren't part of Nava College Prep or the LAUSD. Describe what Nava College Prep High School is.
Yeah, so Nava College Prep is actually it's a public high school in LAUSD, the second largest school district in the country. It's actually a school within a school. It's like capped at like 1,000 class size. And what's really different about Nava is that the school is basically governed by parents, students, and staff. So that means that these stakeholders make decisions on budget, calendar, staffing, and a number of other really cool things that in 2015 allowed us to kind of partner with Marcus to bring in the Exponential Entrepreneurship Program.
Cool, thanks, Marco. And Marco is my co-host on this whole program. So why don't Pablo, you go next, who's one of the core team members.
Right. Well, I'm Pablo Gonzalez. I'm also one of the managing partners for Fifths on Pictures along with Marcos. And I'm actually the youngest of the group at 18, and I'm still enrolled at Nava College Prep. But a little more about the school. Nava College Prep, it is a pilot school, and it is, very student oriented with an emphasis on involvement by the community and the students. So like all of the like the coaches here, like Kevin, Marcos, and I, we've all been really involved over the years in like some major decisions at Nava, just being like in every committee and board that there has been. But now I'm here, and with you guys, it's gracious to work with y'all.
Cool, Kevin, you want to go?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Sorry if it's a little loud. I'm on the road right now because I had to come to Phoenix to pick up my stuff from my dorm. But I'm on my way back to there already. My name is Kevin. I'm 18. I'm about to turn 19 tomorrow. I went to Nava College Prep. It was a great school. There I took part in the Exponential Entrepreneurship Program.
Hey, Kevin, we got too much wind.
Is that better?
Marco will introduce you. It's too much wind. But I think I heard you say it's your birthday tomorrow. Is that right?
Oh wow,
Is that what he said? I think so.
I didn't hear him. The wind was strong.
Cool.
But just a brief introduction for Kevin. Kevin he graduated class of 2019, so the class after me. We worked together at Nava through the leadership class on campus, and he's really a remarkable student. He's CEO of Loopseat, which is a startup. It's a food delivery service for his campus, and so it's really he has a very interesting model. I'm sure you'll learn more about it, but it's awesome to see that he's graduated and become an entrepreneur after college, after high school.
Is Noella or Christian around?
They're not here now, but they may join later.
Okay, well, that's the two other team members, Noella and Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole group is located, I think you're all home right now, and home is right there.
South Central Los Angeles.
Yeah, South Central Los Angeles, near downtown, and so that whole group. So that's quick intros. I think it's good to do that each time until people get familiar. So let's jump into this today. The last couple sessions, we talked about why we're doing this. That we did that on the first session. Then we talked about who's doing it and how it's all going to come together. We call that the theory of impact. And today we're going to talk about some of the goals and objectives and what you should expect. We'll probably also hit, you making a final decision to what extent you're going to participate. And then if we've got time, we'll talk about when this model might evolve into the broader model of how I think you prepare yourself for the jobs of the future. As always, the opinions we share are our own. We're not representing anyone. We're not always right, but we try to bring facts and empirical data to support some of the things that we share with all of you. But we're not going to rehash a lot of the mission. You got to go back to the earlier videos. I'm assuming everyone's heard those who's on this line anyways. And we'll jump into this next session here. Feel free to ask any questions. You can take I'm not controlling your mute or your mic. You can do that yourself. If you wanted to ask something, you can raise your hand using the options at the bottom of the screen. So again, I want to emphasize the theory of impact is very important because that's how you're going to decide if you're going to spend an hour each day with us Monday through Friday or some subset of that. And I don't know, I mean, we're not doing this for our own entertainment, we're doing this for you guys. So it's really important that you give us feedback and you really feel like this is going to deliver on what we're trying to achieve, which is to make you exponential entrepreneurs so you can have your own business and control your destiny. We're going to talk about those goals and objectives now. What we covered last time, which we're not going to cover again, is we went through what are these exponential tools and technologies, an overview of that. We're going to bring that into the program. Basically, the technology that are transforming society, industry, business today. Things that you really have to know. We also talked about the element, which I think is really the core element of this whole program, is students, previous students or current students who are in your shoes, who are now in high school or out of high school, Marco and team here, from what I would consider underserved communities, meaning they're not getting the quality of education that, well, I don't want to say that, because I think the quality of education is good. I just think that it's not getting access to all the information and knowledge that that I know some of the entrepreneurs that are up in Silicon Valley that they're getting in high school. So we're trying to bring that to communities that maybe aren't getting enough of that education and awareness. This is not a course or a class. We're not going to be lecturing. As a matter of fact, we're probably going to get away from the PowerPoint slides and get more into roundtable discussions, fireside chat, panel discussions, interviews, almost like a podcast. You know, you guys can give us feedback what you want, but I almost think it's going to be like like Joe Rogan's podcast, but we're just going to be talking about this stuff, right? And you can tune in, and it's not like you miss something that you got to catch up with. But some of these initial sessions are important. Marco and team have access to a whole network. Think about how valuable this is. They're gonna bring in young people that are roughly your age that have either gone to college or have not gone to college. That's not a prerequisite here. But the one thing is, they've done something successful to create some business to make themselves self-sufficient and sustainable, to earn a living by creating their own business, of a modern day entrepreneur. So I'm not talking about creating their own business where they're going out and mowing lawns or something. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but we're going to talk about using new technologies to create new businesses. You heard Marco last time talk about how, I think it was Christian or Pablo that got certified on drones, right?
Yeah.
Pablo,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You got certified on drones because you guys run a marketing services business. Some people don't even know what that means. I think it's brilliant, and you're going to explain one time exactly what that means so everybody knows what it is. I think the other thing that's cool, Marco and Pablo and Kevin and team, is you guys created some businesses that help out your community, because your community is not getting served by outside businesses, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can teach people to cookie cutter that into their own communities. So if we get students from other communities, maybe from the Boston School District or Detroit or Chicago or something, you could actually share with them, how do you set up some businesses to serve a community that's not getting served? So I think that's incredible, because I think the confidence level should be very high that if someone was in my shoes, i.e. like you, Marco, and I'm using this as an example. If I'm a high school student in a low income, underserved community, and I'm not, I know I need to start thinking either about college or about how to make a living, or both. And I am able to talk to you, Marco, and the rest of the team who were in my shoes just a matter of a year or two ago, because you just graduated. And you share with me how you created some really unique businesses to serve the community there, that's actually allowing you to employ your network, some of your friends and others, that then take this business to market. And it helps the community. It also raises revenue and income for those that are participating. So it's a win-win. So that's huge. And I know Marco has the ambition with the rest of the team to be a resource for all of you that join this program, where they want to mentor you, but they also can do stuff outside of this 1 hour call, perhaps. So pretty interesting stuff. So that's a big deal with Marco and the rest of the team. Then you've got my network and my resources, which I covered last time. But this is, I'm going to try to bring to you all some of the most prominent thought leaders in the world on some of these topics. These are individuals that I will normally ask to come speak in front of the CEO of one of the largest companies in the world. So this is essentially, if you were in the professional community right now, to see some of the people that I'm going to bring into this program to come speak to you all, it costs tens of thousands of dollars to go to some of these conferences and listen to some of these experts speak. So these are people I really respect, part of my personal network, people that I've learned a lot from, and they're just very giving group of people, and they will share their knowledge with this group through this process. Maybe not all of them will, but ones I've spoken to said, yeah, I can get on a Zoom call once, coming up February or May or June, get on a call for an hour and share with all of these students some of the things that I know. And that's going to be some really exciting exciting access that you guys will have. Let's see here. Someone's got a, can you see the chats there, Marco?
Yes, I can see the chats.
Okay, let me know, because I see the chat thing beeping at me, and maybe you can tell me if there's a question that's asked that we can get to, or if it, just interrupt me if you need to. So, you know, and I mentioned some of the, well, I'm not going to go into it because you can listen to the last video, but we're talking about some really world-renowned people, some of the people that wrote most of the books behind me. And that will be very exciting. I really want you guys to take advantage of it. Think about that. You're going to have access to some of the leading inventors and innovators in the world, speaking directly to you. You're going to have access to Marco and team who have been in your shoes, who run businesses. And they're going to explain to you how easy it is. Because is it really that difficult, Marco, to run a business? I mean, I'm not discrediting anything you've done, but tell me if this is a fair analogy, okay? If I learned how to do Minecraft and post videos to TikTok and became an expert in all that stuff, don't you think technically all of that, to learn all that stuff and all that, that's about as hard as it is technically to start a business today?
Yeah, I think, you know, starting a business is really easy, and then maintaining it is, I think, the challenge. And
Yes.
so that's where the guidance comes from.
Yes, the saying there is, and you'll hear this a lot in business, strategy, ideas are easy, execution is hard.
Yes.
But the technical side, I guess what I'm saying is I don't want anyone to get nervous to think, I don't know anything about starting a business. I can't, you got account payables, you got account receivables, you got invoicing, you got logistics, you got distribution, you got websites, you got marketing.
Mm-hmm.
That might sound real complicated, but there literally are free resources on the internet that provide you those capabilities. So it's very turnkey. It's very efficient. It's very easy to turn on, because others are now providing you that. Google and Amazon and others are providing that to you because they want you to use their platforms. Same thing like if I told you you had to make a website, you'd be like, well, that's really hard. Well, Facebook basically made your website because you have a Facebook page or an Instagram page. And all you have to do is post pictures. Starting a business has gotten to be that out of the box. Like you just open up the box and it's ready to run, and you just drop in payments or drop in invoicing, and we'll describe all this. I just don't want you to get deterred thinking that's the easy part. That's the commodity. The hard part is finding the right people and then executing. Because you won't even have a shortage of ideas. It's about executing. And Marco and the team will share that with you, and I'll share my perspective. And then the last piece of this kind of equation is that there is this notion of private citizens. That's basically what we are, right? We're not in high school anymore. We're private citizens. I'm older, private citizen. I'm not a senior citizen, by the way, but I'm a private citizen. I'm an older citizen. And then we got Marco and the team, Pablo, Kevin, Noella, Christian, others that are part of the core team here. They're private citizens, and they just want to help. I think this is a model in which private citizens can actually use technology like Zoom, like we are now, to actually mentor and educate and prepare young people to support and supplement the school. Okay, so that's the theory of impact. Let's talk about, you know, what we're trying to pull together here for all of you. So these are our goals. It's always good. I want you to think about this too, because what we're sharing with you right now is a very structured narrative. We're telling a story. You know, you saw the agenda slide on the previous page, right? Now we're drilling into this item on the agenda. When we drill into this item on the agenda, we're going through and describing it. We're listing our mission, our goals, our objectives. That's important when you start a business. So what I'm sharing with you now is also, I just want you to get acclimated to, this is a very standard approach to how to share a message. Now you can have your own style on it. You can have your own visuals. You can use a lot of words and graphics. You can use no words and graphics. I like to animate things, you can tell. Sometimes I get a little carried away. It's probably not that good to get carried away. But I also want you to think about structured thinking and how to tell a story, you call this a narrative. Like, what's your narrative? And your business has to have a story, a narrative. You know, here's our history. Here's how we got here. This is why we're here now. This is our journey. This is what our vision was and our mission. This is why we exist, what our purpose is. Now we're getting to specifics, like these are our goals and objectives that we're going to try to achieve. And that narrative is very important, because whether you know it or not, for people to really ingest what you're saying to them, you've got to figure out a pretty structured approach in order to tell them that narrative. And it can be, sometimes you'll have plenty of time like we're doing here. Sometimes you get to the elevator pitch, which we discussed on the previous session, right? The whole concept of an elevator pitch. You know, you got 20 seconds in an elevator before you get to your floor, and your boss walked in, or an investor walked in, or a business person walked in, and you're trying to pitch them on your idea. So you got to summarize it in 20 seconds. And we'll talk about all that in due time, okay? So the goals, you know, with coronavirus, bring innovative solutions to help our stressed public school heroes. I like to call them heroes. You know, I didn't share this yet, but I come from a family of educators, so I have a lot of pride and respect for anyone that's in the profession. My two kids went to public high school, then they went to college. Their mom was a public high school teacher, middle school teacher here in California, and then was a public school teacher in other parts of the world. My father's a college professor for over 40 years. He's retired now, but he taught political science and statistics at Virginia Tech. My mother had a profession in technology at IBM and other places, but she started off as a math professor, math teacher. She's one of the original women to write a computer programming book back in the 80s, which is pretty interesting. And then my brother currently teaches at Michigan State University. He's also the doctor there. He's the head doctor there for the professional sports at Michigan State. He had nothing to do with the Larry Nassar stuff. So just to clarify, you got to do that now when we talk about Michigan State, unfortunately. Anyways, okay, so another goal here is to develop our coaches. So this is the terminology. You've got host, which is myself. I'm a host. Marco's a host. We're co-hosts. We're partners on this thing, okay? You've got coaches, which is the core team. Marco's one of the head coaches, but you've got Pablo, Kevin, Noella, and Christian, who are all coaches. They're going to have a significant role in this thing to help define the strategy, drive this forward, work on content with us, interview people, the works, okay? Then you've got mentors. Mentors are the guests that we bring in. Those are people from my ecosystem, my network that you see on the top of the screen here, or the network of mentors that Marco and team have access to. And that's the vernacular we're using, okay? Host, coaches, and mentors. The coaches, you know, part of the goal here is that we want to ramp up who we have as a coach. So we haven't talked about how we're going to do that yet. Marco will drive that with the team, but eventually we'll probably need more coaches if we got bigger, if we get more people participating. Also, if you're from a Boston school district and you want a local group there, you know, you're going to want coaches that are from the local community there. So part of this is to develop coaches that can go on and do this and bigger, better things, you know, outside of this. Just continue to be helpful in the community to prepare young people. Another goal is change how private citizens can engage in the public learning and evolving of the public education system. I call this sustained relevancy. I shared this with you earlier, but I think that the pace of technology is moving so quickly, it's too difficult. It's moving exponentially fast, right? It's too difficult for the traditional public school system, the way we've used it for the last 50, 100 years, that hasn't evolved or innovated too much, relatively speaking. It's too much of a challenge for them to carry the weight of educating young people all on their back. It's just not feasible. The public school system can't be as agile and dynamic and innovative, even though they try, and I give them credit for trying, but it just can be a challenge, and nor should they try to do it on their own. So I do think there's a role for private citizens to play, and that's partly what this is doing, in building a global mentor ecosystem. And then students, which is all of you, because you're the ones we're doing this for, you're able to pursue your passion by developing a social impact business, like a nonprofit, or a commercial business, a for-profit business, by becoming an exponential entrepreneur, which means you're making income. And that really is I think at the core of this program is, it's not a purely social entrepreneur program. We're not teaching you how to be a social entrepreneur to go change the world, although all of us have that background and we've all do that, okay? We focus on that as a priority and purpose. I think the goal here, though, is to have sustainability and you can make income, to figure out how you're going to provide for yourself or your family, because I know that's going to be top of mind. And with everything changing, if you don't have the right education, that job you thought you were going to do after high school might be done by a robot or by artificial intelligence in the next few years, especially with coronavirus accelerating those technologies. And what I mean by that is a lot of companies are letting go of a lot of people. I don't think many of those companies will hire all of those people back because it's an opportunity for them to replace those people with robotics and artificial intelligence, and those people can do different jobs. You have to be prepared for those different jobs, or doing your own job, starting your own company. So I think it's a pretty precarious time. And the good news is you've got access to be your own boss, to be your own entrepreneur, or to retool yourself for the jobs of the future that are relevant right now. Okay. Anything else as far as an overarching goal? I'm going to get into these objectives, which now goes a layer deeper. But I don't know, Marco or Pablo or Kevin or anyone on the call that wants to share something as far as like what is a goal you'd like to see out of this, or what else did you anticipate?
In the past, I've shared about how important it is, at least for me, to really foster a community here. And so I'm really excited to see everyone here today, because at some point I'd love if we can all develop a relationship where everyone feels comfortable calling, texting, and meeting with with us as mentors, because I think that there's a lot of learning that can occur from each other.
Cool.
And I am a little curious at this point, where are people calling from, just to kind of understand a little bit more. Where I know Emmanuel, South Central.
You mean as far as locations?
Yeah, location. Where are you? What part of the city are you calling from? Just out
Maybe,
of curiosity.
maybe people can put in the chat box
Yeah.
where you're calling from, what city.
Let's see. Also, it's South Central.
And while you're doing that, let me go through these objectives. So one objective is to future-proof you. You like that term, future-proof? So the goal is to future-proof yourself. Make sure that your skills are relevant for the future, which is happening now, and it's coming at us quicker than we think. So that's one objective. Peer-to-peer relatability, that's the whole idea of having Marco and team and the coaches. So these are, I would not have a lot of integrity, nor would I expect you to listen to me much if it was just me up here lecturing or pontificating about all these things I know and this is all you need to do. Marco and the team are going to keep me honest to make sure that what I share with you is relevant, and also they're going to put it down to like real terms and really help you think about how does this apply to you. And through Marco and the team and the coaches, you guys can share with me, like, what are some of the struggles you're dealing with? Maybe there's things that I'm oblivious to. Maybe there's, maybe you're having trouble getting your business launched because of some type of racial profiling or some bullshit like that, So everything we're talking about here, okay? So you just we gotta keep it real and be really open and honest with each other and just share with each other, what are the challenges, what are the hurdles to getting this done? Because together as a group, we're gonna get through this. I want you all within a year to have some form or fashion of a business that you launched. And you might have, and we'll get to this, you might have failed a few times in order to learn, and that's okay. You gotta be not afraid to fail, but you got something you start to get excited about. Now, is it gonna make you a millionaire or a billionaire? Like you see some startups from Silicon Valley? Probably not. But does it give you some line of sight to where you can see some longevity, where you could grow that business and that could actually be your career? And it's going to be something that you now feel confident that your destiny is in your own hands to build that business out. And it's future-proof. You know that there's not going to be something that comes up in a year from now, some technology that's going to take you out of business. Because you got to be peeking around the corner, because you might put all this time and effort in doing something and realize, like, imagine if we were all deciding to develop a taxi cab business right now. Probably wouldn't be the best business idea because Uber completely disrupted it, right? Almost put the taxi business industry out of business. And that happened overnight. And how many cars did Uber have to buy in order to disrupt the whole taxi industry? Uber didn't buy any cars. They just used the cars that were already out there, right? They use excess capacity. My point is, you got to understand how things are shifting around, because you don't want to go start doing something and realize it's you're going to get disrupted because some technology is going to put you out of business. There's a Wayne Gretzky quote. If you're into hockey, I'm not into hockey. I'm from near Detroit, Michigan, so that was kind of a hockey town. But Wayne Gretzky said, "Skate to where the puck is going." So you're always lose if you're trying to be a fast follower and just chase something. You got to skate to where you think the puck's going. You got to telegraph, I'm here, technology's here, but I see it curving, so I'm going to intercept it here. I'm going to skate to where the puck is headed. I'm not going to chase the puck. It's silly to chase the puck, especially with this technology. So that's what we're doing, is we're giving you a completely different lens to be able to peek around the corner and think about real practical things that you can plan for, that if you start now, it might be a decent business, but in 5 years, it could be a great business, because things are going to continue to change in that direction, right?
Yeah, and another example that I think about that's from like in South Central is, not sure if my family, we used to love going to DVD stores, and on weekends we would like get like, I don't know, like 2 or 3 movies that we would watch over the weekend. And usually they were mom and pop shops, right? And this was before Netflix. And so really it was Netflix that came in and, really disrupted that industry. And that led to a lot of DVD shops, including Blockbuster, which is one of the most popular ones. But I think our community tended to go to a lot of DVD shops. If you go looking for a DVD shop, in South Central specifically, I bet that you probably can't find one. But that's a business that also was disrupted, and we'll learn more about that. But one of the disruptors of that business or that industry was Netflix.
Yeah, great example. Like, you do not want to. I do a talk online. You can find it. It's called "Uber Yourself Before You Get Kodak'd."
Mm-hmm.
And we'll tell you the story of Kodak later. Some of you, this is how relevant this is. Some of you probably never even heard of the company Kodak. But when I was your age, it was as popular. It was like Instagram, the most popular thing, right? It was taking photos, but they're out of business now for the most part, because photos went digital.
And they did.
And so, again, we'll talk a lot about this because there's so many great examples. Mark, I really appreciate you throwing the Blockbuster one in there. You're going to be pretty amazed. And the thing is this, Kodak was basically put out of business and went bankrupt, and it had something like 25,000 employees, multi-billion-dollar company. They went bankrupt the same year that Instagram was bought by Facebook for $1 billion and had like 10 people. So here's a company that had tens of thousands of employees, billions of dollars of revenue, and literally overnight they went bankrupt. And that same week, I think it was, is Facebook made their historic purchase of Instagram, which essentially is replacing Kodak, the digital photography from physical photography. And that was done, and they had, I think, 10 employees,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you can do some powerful things as a small group. It goes back to our earlier discussion of technology that only big government and big business had 10 years ago that cost millions of dollars is now literally accessible to you and democratized down, so everyone has access. In many cases, it's now free, okay? So another thing we're doing is a lens into the art of the possible. I mean, it's hard to, it might have been a little bit struggling to try to think of a business idea 10 years ago too, because I don't know, there's only so many ideas and everybody thought of them, right? Not all of them, but a lot of them were thought of. Now it's just like a heyday, because when you start looking at all these technologies that are emerging, they're new for everyone. So it's not like everyone thought about how to use AI to create a business, or how to use virtual reality to create some new business, or how to use the internet to create a business. There's so many, the art of the possible is just unbelievable. So we want to broaden your lens on that, so you get more familiar with that. I call it widening your aperture. So instead of just seeing this in your world like this, you start to see this, and next thing you know, it's like, man, there's this whole world out there. I wouldn't be doing this if I thought that if I was hyping that side up too much. Meaning, if I didn't think there was really a world of legitimate possibilities that you could go after, even if timing for going to like college was in the cards or not. So even if you didn't go to college, although I highly encourage it, of course, but even, I don't want you to be discouraged that some education is the only route to starting your own business. You can educate yourself online pretty darn good nowadays. And you combine that with the college education, you're going to dramatically accelerate it. The goal here is also to set expectations. This requires a lot of discipline. You know, I imagine some people will start this program and then you'll bail out. You'll become disinterested. Others that stay really focused and you stick with it, I think you're going to advance yourself pretty quickly. Supplement to school. Again, this is not meant to replace your daily public school system Zoom meetings that you're doing as part of social distancing, or sorry, as part of distance learning with the coronavirus right now with the LA school system. Don't start getting onto this thing and not going to your classes. This is a plan B. Plan A is the classes you got from the schools. A big factor here is to develop confidence and hope. And I mean that very seriously. It's at some point, it would be good if the light bulb goes off in your head and you realize, wait a second, I realize that if I just learn these things, I will be self-sufficient. I'll be able to build some business or do something and be self-sufficient, provide for myself and my family. If I can just learn these things, at some point, I think you're going to get there. You're going to realize it's just more of knowledge is power. If I can learn these things, I'll get there. Okay. You know, Marco, you have confidence. I don't know if you had confidence back in your early high school days, but clearly, I don't think you have a burning anxiety about how you're going to provide for yourself or your family and make a living now, because I think you've seen enough to know that even if you haven't tackled it yet, you're hungry to learn it, because you know it's just a matter of time. Once you learn it, you'll be able to, you'll have the ability to take care of your future.
Yeah.
Try to make this exciting, inspirational. I mean, part of I think the hook here is that some of this technology is ridiculous. I mean, you could spend, I don't know, I don't think you have to be a tech nerd like me to get excited about it either. I mean, you talk about cars that are being developed to be flying cars, drones that can carry people. You talk about 3D printed body parts that are the future of medicine. You talk about editing the genome and the DNA. You talk about virtual reality and augmented reality worlds and what the future of that looks like. This technology is progressing so quickly. It just is super interesting, especially when we start going through examples. So I think a lot of this program, some programs, we might just even get on the internet from the live Zoom here and pull up some articles that are just fascinating stories and really talk through the science and technology that's behind them, and then talk about how you could launch business ideas off of that tech. Just so you get familiar with reading some of the information that's out there so you can learn how to learn.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then just help you fulfill your own purpose and control your own destiny. So those are some objectives. The format is 30 to 60 minutes each day, Monday through Friday, 5 o'clock. I don't know, maybe we'll do this through Instagram Live or other things, but right now we're doing Zoom. And then we'll just try to get feedback from everyone as we go. So I'm going to pause there. I see that people have put there's a plethora of locations that people chimed in on the chat in terms of where they're from, and it's predominantly South Central. Which is good. I think we wanted to, by design, we started very much, and we are going to be centric and focused on the LA community here. It's because it's our community, it's in our backyard. But by all means, anyone can participate. And if we get friends or family from other places outside of Los Angeles, more than happy to have them participate as well. Alrighty, anything else that the team wants to talk about, or any questions anyone has?
Yeah, I want to mention something. First, can you guys hear me? Is the wind better?
Yep, Kevin, we can.
All right, cool. You mentioned the art of the possible. I feel like for that was a big thing for me, because being in high school, I never thought I would be able to make a business, and like even less create a business when I'm young, when I'm 18, and kind of I feel like that's what Expo was for me, and I want this program to be that for you guys, kind of showing you that it's not impossible, showing you that it's not extremely hard, showing you that it only requires dedication, and just putting yourself out there and really I mean the possibilities are endless. Like if you would have told me like when I was in high school that I would have been signing a contract with one of the biggest food suppliers in the world, I would have been like you're crazy. Like what are you saying? Like there's no way I'm gonna do that. But it's like you just have to put yourself out there. You have to believe in it and kind of just follow the correct steps, ask the right questions, and just know that you're gonna get there. It's gonna take a long time. It might take a short time, but just know that like everything is possible if you really set yourself to it and kind of just follow the right guidelines and just ask the right people the right questions. You're gonna get there. Just I just want you guys to be passionate about things and kind of like dream big because there's really like not much you can't do. So I want you guys to be aware of that.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think you know, I've used that too, that whole like dream big. I like, you know, I dream very big, and I set like short-term goals to, you know, to see progress. And really like, well, you know, it's been really remarkable to see that like with dreaming big, it has unlocked a number of opportunities, right? And like, and that's to say, like, I haven't, you know, I'm still not like, I still haven't achieved my full term, like, you know, long term goals. But like, you know, just because I'm like, you know, shooting for the stars, like, I'm still
Yeah,
like somewhere in the clouds. Like, that's kind of
exactly.
what I think
Yeah.
about. And I'm sure that, you know, Kevin and Pablo
Mhm.
and Marcus, you know, probably feel the same about like, you know, when you dream big, you really um are or unlocking the motivation you need to, you know, to get, you know, to work towards your goals.
Awesome. Yeah, Marco, what do you, let me ask you this, Pablo, Kevin, Marco from the core team here, and anyone else can chime in before we move on. You know, part of me, am I oblivious to some of the issues that the community is having right now with coronavirus and the difficulty of like, I guess what I'm saying is, are people getting more concerned about how do they even put food on the table tonight because there's massive unemployment. Coronavirus has been around for weeks now. People aren't making incomes. People are getting fired. Do you think people have the, do you think this is a priority right now? Do you think that people will, like young people are, or there's so many other fundamental things they got to be thinking about now, which is like, you know, how are we going to be eating in the next month? Because we, you know, my parents lost their jobs or something because of coronavirus. And I don't know, what do you think about that? Do you think this is good timing for this? I mean, I kind of feel like some students will want to be like, I need to start figuring stuff out. Like I need to take control of my future right now because there's some crazy stuff happening in the world. And I want to know where there's a will, there's a way. But I don't know, do you think it's naive for us to think that this is a priority right now for people, or are we being insensitive or what? Tell me what you think.
I think that's a great question. It's actually one that I pondered on like really hard like about 2 weeks ago. And Pablo knows this because we worked together in advocacy. And so like I know I like I really I kind of poured out my thoughts and, you know, analyzed what's going on in South Central, right? And I'm involved with other advocacy organizations personally, and so like I'm, you know, I'm getting all this information about what's going on. One instance that really like kind of that really kind of like you know, it hurts to hear. It's like the idea that like through like the LA Tenants Union, I hear about tenants who are now struggling to pay for rent, and they're deciding between rent and food, and the landlords are harassing them to pay, and so like, and then there's a lack of or the lack of really awareness, or there's a limited amount of government resources for like an undocumented, you know, a community with an undocumented, with a large undocumented population. And so I think yes, that we definitely will, some of the most marginalized like youth in the community will definitely not be able to participate at the moment. But kind of like the way I'm thinking about my advocacy for the next few months, really, because there's going to be drastic like economical repercussions to COVID-19, even when social distancing ends, is that it's still very important to provide an alternative. And even just being there, like one of the most powerful things I heard recently was from a student who was just grateful that they had someone that they could talk to and listen to during this really difficult time, and, you know, still being able to reach out, especially as, you know, many students have probably lost regular check-ins with some of their favorite mentors, teachers on campus, right? And so I think there's still a lot of and there's a big there's a lot of value in providing like this community.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot. I mean, I don't mind this being part of a support group for each other too, as aspiring entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I'm trying to keep this very focused on underserved low-income neighborhoods is because I think that group is getting marginalized and probably is experiencing different challenges. And I'd like to keep it more around a group that can talk about that and feel comfortable about it. You know what I mean? That's why I like it being this group, because that's a big consideration. But yeah, I don't think you guys will have to share with me kind of the reality on the ground there, because sometimes we might be like, Marcus, rather than having the session today and talking about drones and robotics, starting a business, can we just chill and let off some exhaust for a session and just talk about like some of the real problems that we're facing with people, not being able to pay rent and other things. I mean, I don't want this, I'm not a counselor and I don't have that background at all, but I just don't want to overwhelm people and seem not
with the situation.
Yeah, I don't want to seem not being sensitive to the realities of the world. And I do think that you as an entrepreneur, the whole thing is identifying your passion and then thinking about how to make an impact with that passion and create a career out of it. And your passion and where you want to make an impact comes from your background and your culture and where you're from. So inevitably, we're going to talk about what drives you, what motivates you, and it's going to be a homogenous discussion among this group, I think, with some similar experiences, to where we got to get some of that out, because if that drives you to change the life for others, maybe that had experienced things so they don't experience things the way you experienced it, that's going to be your motivation that makes you a successful entrepreneur, because that's the thing that has to be behind you that's going to drive success. It's not going to be a degree or how much education you got, because I know a lot of people who have done that have never been good entrepreneurs. It's, do you have a passion to change something?
Yeah. And I think what's also important about, like, even before Exponential Destiny, like Kevin and I were like, before Exponential, we were on a call and like, it was like 1 to 2 hours. It was a really good call. And we were bouncing ideas. Okay, South Central, college, what has changed, what is going on with our lives. And like, it's crazy, like, to think, like, at the end of the call, like what we both concluded, with like being born and raised in South Central and like knowing, and speaking from a position of like knowing a little bit more about the world with going to college, is that like there's a lack of entrepreneurship in the community, and how it's really like it's a pressing need. And maybe Kevin, if you recall any of, I remember I took a lot of notes that day.
Yeah.
But I just learned so much about like how, like really entrepreneurship is, being able to control your own destiny is really important. And like, Kevin, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I feel like entrepreneurship basically changed my life. Like, I love it. I'm excited, like, to go wake up every day and like kind of have to deal with something new. That I love that. But I feel like, especially in the South today, I'm sure it's similar in other communities too. But it's just like entrepreneurship isn't nurtured. It's not something that's pushed on you by the school district, by sometimes even some teachers, because it's not something that's usually taught in schools or the community. For example, parents might worry about having to provide for their families, so they rush into the workforce, which I mean, they get paid right away. But entrepreneurship is more of a long-term. It's long-term and it pays off, but on the long run, and I just feel like some students kind of don't really have. They might be interested in entrepreneurship, but they don't really have the time for it, and they don't have a chance to actually take part in it, because they have to kind of graduate school and then start working to provide for their families.
Yeah.
And I feel like being able to provide this class over Zoom, it's only an hour a day. It's completely for free. It's being taught by people like you, Marcus, which you're very successful. I feel like that'll really help and kind of just expose more entrepreneurship in our community. I feel like that's what me and Marco, like he was saying, at the end of the call, it was kind of like, hey, Marco, yeah, this is awesome conversation, and now let's do something. How can we raise entrepreneurship in South Central? And I thought it was gonna be a long. I knew Marco. I know how Marco is. I know he was gonna make something happen, but I didn't think it was gonna be so soon. Like 3 days later, he calls me and said, "Hey, Kevin, like, me and Marcus gonna do this thing. Are you in?" I was like, "What? Like, are you crazy?" Like, of course I'm in. So kind of just, I mean, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited for you guys. I'm sure you guys gain anything from this. If anything, you're gonna gain the ambition to kind of start something on your own. So just I'm excited for us to kind of just come back on a daily basis and just ask questions and just learn. I'm just
Yeah.
excited for the future for all of you guys.
And I'll share like just one story that kind of comes to mind, and one that like I took during the summer I was doing I was in Los Angeles, right? It was my I was after freshman year, and I'll go probably more into these in another session. But like the reality is that a lot of like small businesses in South Central specifically, if they had access to some of the information, like I'm not even talking about like exponential technology right now, like even just like access to email, mobile banking, using specific apps on your phone, and a lot of basic things that truly are unlocked through or those habits are really built through higher education, like writing proposals and collaborating, accessing networks, all of these very basic fundamental skills that are lacking. Like it would just transform a business, and I've seen that in the field where like just that basic information. I think that in some way, like I think the community that is here right now, specifically the students, even just starting there with helping those small businesses could be like, that could be a
Yeah, it's
great
awesome.
social impact, commercial opportunity. That's just
Yeah, I mean, basically what I do for the CEOs and some of the largest companies in the world to advise them on how to improve their business, take that down to a local level, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're right. It's you bring up a good point, Marco. I don't want people to think that only these, AI, robotics, and 3D printing, and biotech, and nanotech, and quantum, that's all there is. There's some low-hanging fruit there besides that. Those are definitely dramatic changes that are going to affect us a lot sooner than we think. So it's just good to know how the world's going to change. You may not even use those technologies. You just have to know the world's going to change because of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
For example, maybe I was going to think about building a website or building a business, but I knew I wanted to launch it so it was in 3 languages. And rather than hiring someone to interpret and put it into all these languages, artificial intelligence can do that translation now. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying, like, you got a plan to realize, like, skate where the puck's going. Like, I want to build this business, but I'm not going to go incur this cost knowing that AI can do that piece for me, this piece, so I can put those resources somewhere else. It's just, again, it's peeking around the corner. The other thing, Kevin, you brought up, which is the last point here, is this is free. There's also, I want to say, there's no hidden agenda here. I joke like Marco and I aren't going to, there's not going to be a slide that pops up, 10 weeks into it says, if you want to continue for 1995, here, we take Visa and American Express and Bitcoin. We're not going to pull one of those on you. This is volunteer. We're doing this in our nights and weekends, and we're happy to do it as long as people get benefit out of it. So, okay. Few minutes that remained. I do think we've got, we can cover off where can you get help to see if you should participate. Well, the help's right here, and we're going to give you some of that criteria right now. So let's finish with this. Who should participate? And you're wondering, if you're wondering, should you participate? We actually prefer the young child that's here, that mindset, a little bit more than the one who's in the background doing the everyday thing. So we like people that are different, that are kind of going by their own drum. We are not discriminating on anything. We don't care if you flunked out of high school and you want to join this thing. We still think you can be an entrepreneur. We don't care if you maybe got into some legal trouble and now you're out of the legal trouble. We want to help you be an entrepreneur. We don't care if you've gone to college and graduated top of your class. We still think this is going to be valuable to you. I know this because I know CEOs of large companies that this is valuable for. So it doesn't matter what you've achieved in life, this is still valuable. So, it's good if you think different and if you feel a little different. That's exactly, you're going to be part of your tribe here. That's what we're looking for. The other thing is, this is the entrepreneur that that founded the company Waze. He's from Israel, and I met with him years back, and he used this graphic in a talk I was in a discussion that he and I were having, and I really liked it. Simple, right? You've got to be of the mindset that in order to be a good innovator and a good entrepreneur, you have to fail in order to get to success. The reason being, think about this, okay? So this doesn't sound like a soundbite and just something cool to say, right? There's actually real merit to this. There's actually science and method to this. If we were all if I was starting a business and you guys were all starting a business and we're all kind of in the same field, and I came up with something that I thought was going to be, and I went to an investor and said, I have an idea. Here's my plan. This is what I'm going to do. And the investor says, well, before I give you any money to invest in you, in your business, how many times have you failed getting here? Well, I haven't failed at all. I'm not a failure. I am always succeeding. I didn't fail at all. This idea and this solution right out of the gate, it's successful. I'm having success. If I'm an investor, I have to think in my head, the reason this person thinks that they're the best is because they've never broken it. Like they've never tested it to the limits just to wait for it to break. Mm-hmm. So I'd rather invest in someone that has tried 4 or 5 things, failed a bunch to learn that doesn't work, pivot here, pivot there, go there, do this instead. Now I'm gonna come up with the right solution. Because if you haven't failed, you're kind of like too shallow in terms of what the art of the possible is. You didn't experiment enough. I'd rather someone to say, yeah, I've actually failed 12 times, which means 11 other times I know it doesn't work, so I'm not going to do that again. And now I'm moving forward with what I know works, versus someone that comes in and says, yeah, I haven't had a lot of failure. So it really is part of the process. Now there's good failure and bad failure. Good failure is you fail very fast, which means you don't take forever. You don't drag it out. You fail when you cut bait and run. You know it's going to not work. You stop, and you fail cheap. You stop spending money on it because you know it's not going to work. You don't just wish it takes off when you know it's not going to take off.
Yeah.
And
I can't wait.
And you fail forward, which means you don't make the same mistake twice. So fail fast, fail cheap, and fail forward. And you can't always do that. Sometimes you'll fail out of just making a dumb mistake, and that's okay. But for the most part, it's part of the learning process. So most importantly, entrepreneurs must not be afraid to fail, and occasionally break some. That's supposed to be my breaking glass thing, and it wasn't. Okay, never mind. I had a great breaking glass. I'll bring it back next time. So that's what I wanted to cover today. On the next discussion, because we're at the top of the hour, we'll spend a few minutes because we started 5 minutes late, so we'll take an extra few minutes just to do some dialogue and some additional Q&A. But that was kind of the goals, objectives, and you making a decision on whether or not you want to be part of this. So this concludes that 3rd session. Tomorrow we'll talk about this model. I won't go into it now, but we'll talk about how this model I think will become more relevant. And then get into the rest of the week. We'll start exploring how we're going to structure our thinking over the next several weeks. I'll share with you guys some diagrams that show like what we're going to break down and how we're going to break it down over the next few weeks or several months, really. With that said, why don't I pause here? Marco and team, if you got any comments or final comments or any additional questions, and then as always, I think we usually try to encourage some people to ask questions that are on the call, that just to get some other people talking and sharing what they think. You can type a question or you can ask it. So don't be shy.
Yeah, is anyone excited to about learning about something specific, just so that we can keep that in mind?
You can type it in there or you can take your phone off mute, either way.
Yep.
Yeah, hey guys, it's Ashford. I've really been enjoying listening. I think one of the things that I'm really interested in is like the global, like specifically artificial intelligence, in terms of taking it, like whatever the ambition is, whatever the initiative is, like, again, Marco and team, thinking big, thinking about what that looks like globally instead of just nationally. Specifically for me, the big interest in a way that I've served for almost all my life after high school was education, and seeing how can education be evolved. And I think right now, these are the times that we're seeing that, you know, anybody can educate themselves on anything. And, you know, so what does it take for people who are in third world countries to get the same thing? And so it excites me when I hear about all of these type of things and projects that are occurring where Wi-Fi can be given across countries, and solar panels for villages and things like that. So, I mean, what do you guys think about in terms of taking something big as far as global? Have you guys ever thought about what that would be like, the feasibilities of it, possible diplomacy with doing things like that because there's different cultures?
I think that's that's a big question. Like, I think that's like really thinking, you know, like after after you kind of work out all the kinks and, you know, you build and get bigger. And, you know, I think Exponential Destiny could, you know, we already have the website. And so, you know, this could become a really successful platform, you know, that has its own team, and, you know, the whole world is available, right? And to reach a global audience, like, you know, I attended my first virtual global summit during this whole epidemic. And I'll tell you, it was amazing. Like, there were people from all over the world. People like you know, like again, like every single continent was represented. It was the Hirsch Summit, and the Sophia, the talking AI robot, was actually a guest speaker. And like,
I met her in person at the United Nations.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy about it all is, like, because it's all virtual, like, it cost me $0.
$0, exactly.
Like,
hey Marco, which comp was it? Was it Exo World?
It was a global ecosystem, global startup ecosystem, something like that. I'm on the mailing list.
Yeah, one of the things we'll do is we'll start posting on the website. The coaches and I will post on the website all the links to all the summits that we think you should go to. I'll probably, with my network, be able to get you great discounts, if not free access to some of these summits that are normally thousands of dollars. Can't promise it, but I think it's very feasible that I can get all of us comped for the specific group.
Yeah.
Be able to send you links to the types of articles and kind of get you on the distribution list of some really informative places that will send out notices of emerging things. The other thing I read from Ashford's question is, you know, Marco, you got a marketing services business, and you'll share with the group later all about that business. But the beauty thing about that is you can think big like this, because as soon as you put it up there, you know, most of the world even speaks English or Spanish, right? So even if it's not in a native language, most of the world, especially in business, everyone, you know, most of the world speaks English. And that's a small problem if you wanted to translate it to some other language like French or Italian, et cetera. But my point is, you have a digital business because most of your product that you produce is going to be digitally distributed. You don't have a physical product. So as soon as you put your website up, boom, 4.5 billion people can now see you, right? And so you shouldn't think, I mean, you can definitely think more broad scale about hitting a global audience to provide your service. That's the whole purpose of this and that's just the beginning, because we've talked about this before, but 4.5 billion people connected to the internet today, we're going to add another 4 billion people to the internet to connect them in the course of the next 3 to 5 years. So you're talking about huge, massive number of people that will have access to your service or your product. So let's do this. Any other questions from anyone? Anyone who wants to who's dialed in, who wants to just share a little bit? Marco had a good question, which is something that you're passionate, you're kind of interested in. Otherwise, we'll call it a day, and we'll do our ceremonial exit. All good? Okay. Let's switch gears to our ending. This is for those of you that don't know, we end every session this way. We remind you of where and when we're meeting next. Each week we send out a new Zoom invite, but it's the same Zoom link for the whole week. So the Zoom link and the password that you use to get onto this session today is the same one you'll use Tuesday through Friday of this week. Okay? So from the core team here, we got your back. Let's go exponentially disrupt this. There we go. As always. I still like that. Do you guys still like that?
I love it.
Okay.
Going on now.
What part of Michigan were you from? Are you from, Marcus?
All right, guys. See you tomorrow, Tuesday. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, guys. See you.
All right, everybody.